Sometimes we have these goals that we've been wanting to accomplish for an extended period of time. And, we've spoken about motives on this channel before. We've spoken about getting to the root of an issue. And I was just really processing this morning as I was on my way to church. And it was something I really wanted to share and with you all along those lines. And when we experience something, we see something in our life, we really have to understand that that's not isolated. Like, there is a cause. Whatever we're experiencing, whenever something happens, a thought, an activity, a movement, something we engage in, something we say, there is a reason behind it. And we do ourselves a disservice when we don't stop long enough to be honest with ourselves and say, okay, what's going on behind the scenes? And so I wrote down this concept or this idea with an example, and hopefully it's something that will help you. How you're feeling is always tied to other areas of your life. For example, if you feel anxiety when you think about not having someone or about the fact that you're alone, and when you feel lonely, you go grab something to eat. And mind you, this can be anything. You have an emotion and then you respond with an action or activity. It just changes based on what's available to us, what we've seen our parents model or those around us, or based on what's acceptable in our people group or culture environment. And when you feel lonely, you tend to eat or grab something to put in your mouth for comfort. That one behavior is not isolated. And this is what I'm really driving home. That behavior, that response, it's not isolated. And if it's something that is counterproductive, you want to address it. And even if it's something that is beneficial to you, you still want to identify it, because then you can duplicate it. And so remember how we talked about practicing the pause. This is going to be an important part of being able to change any of these health habits and accomplish these goals and live in this place of health. So I'll continue. So that behavior doesn't stay isolated. It bleeds into other areas of your life. So let's say I eat to satisfy that loneliness. After I've eaten, the loneliness is still there, but now I'm not hungry anymore, so I can't use the food for comfort. Then I start to feel sad. If I don't address that sadness, identify it for what it is, really is, shut it down with the truth, and redirect my thoughts and emotions, it will keep coming back. And might I say, even more aggressively. Over time, I can start to recognize the feeling and think, here it comes again. So then there's a whole nother thought, negative words that come into my mind that then attaches itself. So now it's growing, okay? It's not just, I feel anxious, let me go comfort myself, and now I'm sad because I don't have it. But now there's an emotion with it. And when that emotion shows up, which it doesn't have to be that exact same situation, that emotion can show up randomly at another time. Why? Because your body's already wired to have that feeling, for that emotion to continue coming up. If you don't stop it, then it starts to make physical connections within your brain. And so that pathway, that neural pathway, then it's going to start to do what's called like an automatic. It'll be automatic. Once you get that feeling or see that thing, then bam, your brain is automatically going to go to that place. And this is part of how it continues to grow. Why? Because once that connection is there, now it's tied not just into your thoughts, but now it's actually tied into your physical brain. Then it has an effect on your physical body, especially if you're using something like food to then satisfy that. Then we have the outcomes of that. However many times you do it. Why? Because then you'll have a default and a pattern that says, you're feeling like this, now you got to go do this. And so this is how it stems out and it grows. It doesn't stay isolated. So then you get the thought, here it comes again. So when it happens again, because it's not addressed, here it comes again. So now that anxiety, that negative emotion, it's growing. Okay? But initially we'll say something like, it's nothing, have some fun, right? Have a drink, or just eat one cupcake. It's not about the external thing that you do, but it's about the reason why. And I hope this is really giving you an idea of why, of how that happens, or you're starting to see that connection. Why? Because we can judge things from the outside and say, oh, this is okay and this is not okay, just based on our own bias. But this is why diets are not effective. Anything that just sets you up with rules, like, people being religious. Oh, I do this, and on Tuesdays I do this, and it's like, why are you doing it? It's the question. Why are you doing it? Why? Because the why is going to help you to determine how it's going to be long term, what's going to happen later on. Okay. And this is why I wanted to give you this practical example. Hopefully you can see how all of these patterns start to grow and leak into other areas. So over time, I can start to recognize the feelings. So say that emotion that I have when I feel sad about being alone, or that emotion I have when I feel sad when I don't have that thing that I typically use for masking for comfort, right? Fake comfort, because we haven't gotten to the root of it. The only way to get rid of it is to get to the root. But then I keep looking at things to try to put a girdle on it. Let me just try real hard to stop. No, you didn't get to the root of it. Okay. And these are the different twists and turns that these things do in our life. So over time, I can start to recognize the feeling and think, here it comes again. And then just feel defeated. I can't do it. And then guess what that does? That sends you back to looking for something externally to comfort something that's taken place on the inside. Then that doesn't work in the natural or in the spiritual. So if I have a thought in my mind and I think that, well, I'm going to go do cartwheels for the thought to go away. That's not going to work. No, that's not going to work. Even when we look at something that's healthy like exercise, people abuse exercise all day long. So I see it all the time at the gym. People coming in, killing themselves, and then giving themselves a pat on the back when they leave. I'm like, that's why now you have to strap up your knees, because the reason for running wasn't for your health. And so now you're using something external to take care of something that's emotional, and we can only do more of that thing because the root cause hasn't been taken care of. So then we're going to want to do more and do more. So we need to pause. We've got to stop and pause and say, wait a second. Why am I doing this? That's the real question. Like, why do I feel like I need to? But if we bring the excuses, have something to eat. Or if we know that our mother is feeling guilty for not being there, and they overwhelm us with gifts and food to try to compensate for their guilt. And we know it, but we just still do it anyway. Well, this is what it's going to bleed. It's going to bleed. And we can't pretend like it's not going to bleed. And then if not, we continue using something external. Usually then we have to then take care of the problem that creates. And in this case, it's bad health, it's obesity, it's pain in the body. And guess what? The anxiety just continues to increase. But if you identify whatever it is for what it truly is, recognize that it doesn't have the control over you, and it can't control you, and then use what it is that God has given us, casting it down by replacing it with the truth, then something changes. Why? Because now we've actually removed it instead of trying to cover it up. That same pattern won't just show up around food. That whole system of, I feel like this, okay, I think this, now I'm going to do this. This didn't really take care of it. Now I'm sad again. Okay, now I got to try more of that thing. This is the pattern of addiction as well. Beat yourself up, you feel bad, and it just perpetuates that same cycle. The same pattern. Now, it's not just going to stay in that situation. Okay, when I feel lonely, I have to have this emotion. Now, it's going to show up in another situation. You see? Now it's going to show up because it's already been wired into your system. So now it's going to show up when you're doing something completely different and you're with people. And then that comes about. And then what happens, sometimes we end up isolating ourselves. Why? Because it's like, well, I have to be alone so that I can take care of what's going on. I'm not able to show up around people and pretend anymore. It's too much because the root hasn't been taken care of. And so this cycle will perpetuate if we don't stop and ask the real question. Later on, when there's a class I want to take or a goal I want to pursue, that same emotion can come up again. And along with it comes the belief, here it comes again. This will never go away. Then other thoughts and emotions can attach itself, and it just continues to grow. What we have to understand is that life isn't made up of isolated situations. Everything is connected. If we don't defeat the lie, the darkness, the enemy in one area of our life, it will resurface in another area. When we misuse food and pretend like it's no big deal, even though we know we're using it to cope, the real reason we're misusing it never gets healed. It never gets satisfied. The solution is never applied. Instead, we keep covering the wound with whatever it is available, whatever pattern we've set up or distraction, and it's never taken care of, so it grows. That's why nutrition matters. This is something I see all the time. This is why nutrition matters. So many of our defeats, struggles, and challenges, and so many of the ways the enemy attacks and hinders our lives are connected to food. But when we say it's no big deal, or we should have fun sometimes, or whatever phrase we use to get out of it for the moment, or to excuse it for the moment, which we know it's not true, we're actually turning our backs on the very thing that's allowing defeat to keep entering into our lives. So every time we make these verbal excuses and put it off and continue with the behavior, we're basically just opening up doors, say, hey, come on in, ants. These automatic negative thoughts. Come on in. Yeah, come on, more. You see? And so that's what I wanted to highlight for you today, is that it's not just important because I want to change the goal, or I want to feel like I overcame. No, you guys. It's actually destroying you one event at a time. And that's how it can multiply. And it looks different for different people. And this can be addressing food, because this is about health. This is something that I see that's very common. But it can be anything. I was telling somebody today, I said, you could collect chopsticks. And you keep using chopsticks, collecting chopsticks in order every time you feel, any negative emotion or lie. No, you have to replace that lie. You got to ask the question. You got to pause, ask the question, and then replace it with the truth. And I'm telling you, the best one to do this with is God. Why? Because he knows when it started. He knows when a lie came in, and he has the truth that'll work. He has the truth. He knows what we need to speak over ourselves to replace these patterns that have been set up. So, well, I hope that was helpful for you. Don't hesitate to comment down below. You have a blessed day.